Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the quiet of his living room, Devon found himself drawn to a mysterious package, its elegance contrasting with the mundane items scattered around. A simple order mistake had led to this, a sleek, white container with pale pink script adorning its surface. His intended purchase of his mother's beloved jasmine perfume had transformed into Blossoming Dawn, an alluring concoction of cherry blossoms and peonies. As he grazed his hand through his hair, a sigh escaping his lips, Devon realized the inconvenience of rectifying this mix-up. The online store had promptly emailed him, acknowledging their error with detailed return instructions to be followed the next day. Temporarily ignoring the box's presence, he continued his routine, enjoying a ready-made meal and tending to his emails. However, later that evening, just before retiring for the night, Devon's eyes persistently wandered back to that same box, his curiosity piqued by its unexpected presence. Curiosity nagged at him. What exactly did cherry blossom and peony smell like together? He'd never been particularly interested in fragrances, sticking to the same generic cologne he'd used since college. But something about the elegant packaging drew him in. "Just a quick smell," he muttered to himself, lifting the box. "Need to make sure it wasn't damaged in shipping anyway." Devon carefully opened the packaging and removed the glass bottle. It was beautiful craftsmanship, a teardrop shape with a crystalline stopper that caught the light from his bedside lamp. He removed the cap and took a tentative sniff. The scent was unlike anything he'd experienced before. Light and airy at first, then developing into something more complex. Floral notes mingled with a subtle sweetness that wasn't cloying, but inviting. It reminded him of spring mornings and fresh possibility. Before he could reconsider, Devon pressed the atomizer, releasing a small spritz onto his wrist. He inhaled deeply, surprised by how the fragrance seemed to change as it mingled with his skin. Almost without thinking, he applied another spray to his neck. The effect was immediate and strange. The scent surrounded him, creating an almost tangible aura. Devon felt different somehow. Lighter, more graceful. He caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror and was startled by what he saw. Nothing had physically changed, of course, but his perception had shifted. His features looked softer in the low light, his movements more fluid as he turned away from the mirror. Sleep came easily that night, wrapped in the gentle floral cloud of the perfume. Morning brought clarity and a flush of embarrassment. Devon showered thoroughly, trying to wash away both the lingering scent and the strange feelings it had evoked. He dressed in his usual attire, navy slacks and a button-down shirt, and headed to his job at the architectural firm. Throughout the day, however, his thoughts kept returning to the perfume. The memory of how it made him feel, elegant, refined, different, lingered like a pleasant dream. By lunchtime, Devon found himself wandering into a department store near his office, drawn to the women's section as if pulled by an invisible thread. His fingers trailed over a rack of blouses, stopping at one with a delicate floral pattern in shades of pink and cream. Without allowing himself to overthink, he checked the size. Medium seemed about right, and took it to the register. The cashier barely glanced at him, commenting only that it would make a lovely gift. A gift? Yes, that's what Devon told himself as he added a white pencil skirt to his purchase. Just curiosity. An experiment. Nothing more. That evening, Devon placed his shopping bags on the bed and removed the perfume from its box once again. This time, He deliberately sprayed it on his neck and wrists. The transformation in his mindset was immediate, a settling into something that felt strangely right. With trembling hands, he removed the tags from the blouse and skirt. The fabric felt luxurious against his skin as he changed out of his work clothes. The blouse fitted surprisingly well across his shoulders, and the skirt hugged his hips in a way that accentuated a waistline he'd never particularly noticed before. Standing before the full-length mirror in his bedroom, Devon barely recognized himself. The floral pattern of the blouse echoed the botanical notes of the perfume, creating a harmony that felt intentional, designed. His brown hair was too short to style differently, but somehow even that looked changed, softer, framing his face in a way that highlighted his high cheekbones and full lips. "Isla," he whispered, the name emerging from nowhere, and yet feeling utterly right. In that moment, Devon receded and Isla emerged, not as a character or costume, but as another facet of himself that had always existed, waiting to be discovered. The evening passed in a blur of experimentation. Isla practiced walking in the skirt, marveling at how her posture naturally adjusted, how her hips swayed with each step. She found an old makeup kit from a Halloween costume years ago and applied a hesitant stroke of mascara, a touch of blush. When exhaustion finally set in, Isla reluctantly changed back into Devon's pajamas. But before sleep claimed him, Devon made two decisions. He would keep the perfume, and this would not be the last time Isla emerged. Over the following weeks, a pattern developed. By day, Devon worked diligently at the architectural firm, designing spaces for others to inhabit. By night, especially on weekends, Isla explored her own internal architecture, building a sense of self through careful curation of appearance and scent. The perfume became a ritual, a bridge between Devon and Isla. He began to research fragrances, learning about notes and accords, the science and art of perfumery. Each new scent seemed to bring forth slightly different aspects of Isla. A rose and sandalwood blend made her feel sophisticated and mature, leading to an evening in a black cocktail dress practicing wine appreciation in the privacy of her apartment. A citrus and jasmine combination brought out a playful side, paired with a casual sundress, and an afternoon spent rearranging the apartment to better reflect her emerging aesthetic. But always, she returned to the cherry blossom and peony blend. It was her foundation, her truth, the scent that had first revealed Isla to herself. 1 month after the mistaken delivery, Devon finally returned to the website, not to complain, but to order more fragrances. While browsing, he noticed a special collection of botanically inspired perfumes being released. Without hesitation, he ordered 3 different bottles, mentally pairing each with outfits he'd either purchased or planned to acquire. When the package arrived, Devon waited until evening to open it. He'd developed a routine now: shower, moisturize, then apply perfume before dressing. Tonight, he selected a new fragrance called Woodland Violet, described as having notes of violet, iris, and cedar. The transformation was as magical as always. As Isla emerged, she admired her reflection. She'd been growing her hair out slightly, and the auburn highlights were more noticeable now, catching the light when she moved. The violet fragrance paired beautifully with the deep purple blouse and charcoal gray skirt she'd chosen. Isla was becoming more confident in her movements, more assured in her identity. She'd begun practicing makeup techniques from online tutorials, and tonight her eyes were subtly enhanced with neutral shadows, her lips colored a soft mauve. "The perfume is the key," she whispered to her reflection. "It's what transforms me." But deep down, Isla was beginning to understand that the perfume was merely a catalyst, not the cause. It gave her permission to become who she truly was. Summer faded into autumn, and Isla's collection grew, both fragrances and clothing. Devon's closer now contained 2 distinct wardrobes, with Isla's gradually occupying more space. He'd made a few practical concessions for work, growing his hair into a style that could be professional for Devon and feminine for Isla, with just a change in styling. The auburn tones that had been subtle highlights became more pronounced with each salon visit, creating a rich, warm frame for his increasingly androgynous features. Devon told colleagues he was trying something different when they commented on his changing appearance, and most accepted this without question. At home, alone, the boundaries between Devon and Isla began to blur. The perfume ritual remained important, but Isla found herself emerging even before the fragrance was applied. Sometimes Devon would catch himself using Isla's more graceful gestures during work presentations, or Isla would adopt Devon's analytical approach when organizing her growing collection of accessories. On a crisp October evening, Isla stood before her vanity, contemplating the array of perfume bottles. Tonight felt significant somehow, though she couldn't articulate why. Her fingers hovered over the original bottle of cherry blossom and peony, now half empty, before selecting it. The familiar scent enveloped her, but this time she noticed something different. The transformation didn't feel like a shift between 2 separate identities. Instead, it felt like a settling, a coming home to herself. Isla chose a cream-colored sweater dress that complemented her auburn hair, now falling just below her shoulders. She applied her makeup with practiced ease: foundation, a touch of blush, mascara, and a natural pink lipstick. Gold hoop earrings and a simple pendant necklace completed the look. Looking at her reflection, Isla realized something profound. The perfume hadn't created her. It had merely revealed her, and now she no longer needed the ritual to become herself. She already was herself. With a deep breath, she made a decision. Tonight, she would step outside as Isla for the first time. The autumn air felt invigorating as Isla walked through her neighborhood. She'd chosen a casual destination, a small bookstore cafe several blocks from her apartment. It was a place Devon had visited occasionally, but not frequently enough to be immediately recognized. Each step brought a new awareness, the way her knee-high boots clicked against the sidewalk, the sensation of the evening breeze playing with her auburn hair, the subtle turning of heads as she passed. Not in judgment, but in the natural appreciation of an attractive woman walking confidently on an autumn evening. The bookstore was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of coffee and old paper. Isla browsed the fiction section, selecting a novel she'd been meaning to read. At the cafe counter, she ordered a vanilla latte, her voice pitched slightly higher than Devon's, but not artificially so. She'd been practicing finding her natural feminine register. "Great choice," the barista commented, nodding toward her book. "One of my favorites from last year." "I've heard wonderful things," Isla replied, accepting her drink with a smile. She chose a small table near the window, where she could watch the street while enjoying her coffee and beginning her novel. The moment felt surreal yet perfectly natural, her first public outing as her true self. No one stared. No one questioned. She was simply a woman enjoying a quiet evening, unremarkable in the most remarkable way. 2 hours passed before Isla gathered her belongings to return home. Outside, the temperature had dropped, and she wrapped her scarf more tightly around her neck, catching a hint of her perfume in its folds. The scent now felt less like a transformation and more like a signature, not creating Isla, but identifying her. Back in her apartment, Isla didn't immediately change or remove her makeup as she might have done weeks ago. Instead, she settled on her sofa, still fully present in herself, and reflected on the evening. The experience had confirmed what she'd begun to suspect. Isla wasn't a character she played or an alternate identity. Isla was who she had always been, waiting to be acknowledged. Devon hadn't disappeared. Rather, he had integrated into the more complete person she was becoming. His architectural training informed her aesthetic sense. His analytical mind helped her navigate the practical aspects of her transition. His strength supported her through uncertain moments. The next morning, Isla woke early. For the first time, she didn't feel the shift back to Devon with the dawn. She remained herself, wholly and completely. After her morning routine, she selected a professional outfit from her wardrobe, a burgundy blazer over a cream shell, paired with tailored black trousers. The ensemble was undeniably feminine, but appropriate for the architectural firm. Her heart raced as she applied her daily fragrance, the cherry blossom and peony blend that had started everything. Today, it wasn't a transformation. It was armor, courage in a bottle. Before leaving, Isla composed an email to her supervisor requesting a private meeting that afternoon. Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed, but her resolve was firm. It was time for the world to know her as she knew herself. The workday passed in a blur of nervous anticipation. Colleagues noticed her appearance, of course, but most simply complimented her outfit or new hairstyle without further comment. Those who had watched her gradual changes over recent months seemed least surprised, as if they had subconsciously anticipated this culmination. At 3 o'clock, Isla knocked on her supervisor's door. "Come in," called a familiar voice. Monica Chen, the firm's senior design director, looked up from her computer and smiled warmly. "Devon, or should I say something else today?" The question, asked with genuine respect rather than judgment, momentarily startled Isla. "Actually, yes," she replied, taking the seat Monica offered. "I'd prefer Isla." Monica nodded, her expression open and attentive. "Isla suits you. I've noticed some changes over the past few months. I appreciate you coming to talk with me about it." The conversation that followed was nothing like the difficult confrontation Isla had feared. Monica was progressive and practical, focused primarily on how to support Isla professionally during her transition. They discussed timeline, client interactions, HR procedures, and the firm's inclusive policies. "Your work has always been exceptional," Monica concluded. "That's what matters most to this firm. Who you are is who you are. We just want you to bring your full, authentic self to the designs you create." Tears pricked at Isla's eyes, but she maintained her composure. "Thank you."
"That means more than I can express."
After the meeting, Isla returned to her desk, feeling as though a weight had been lifted. The path forward wouldn't be without challenges, but she had taken the first crucial step. The corporate announcement would go out next week, and HR would facilitate her name change in the company systems. Monica had even offered to personally speak with any clients who might have questions. That evening, Isla arrived home exhausted but exhilarated. She kicked off her heels and sank onto her sofa, finally allowing herself to process the day's emotions. Her phone buzzed with a text from Monica. "Proud of you today. See you tomorrow, Isla." With a smile, Isla rose and moved to her perfume collection. Tonight called for celebration. She selected a bottle she'd been saving for a special occasion, a limited edition fragrance with notes of champagne, strawberry, and white flowers. As she applied it to her pulse points, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. What had begun as a mistaken delivery had become the catalyst for discovering her true self. The perfumes that once seemed to magically transform her now simply enhanced who she already was. Over the following weeks, Isla navigated her new reality with growing confidence. The firm's announcement was met with overwhelming support from colleagues. A few client relationships required additional nurturing, but her talent and professionalism quickly overcame any initial hesitation. Her wardrobe continued to evolve, now fully feminine with no separate Devons section. Her auburn hair grew longer, now falling midway down her back when loose, though she often wore it in a professional updo for work. She began hormone therapy after consultation with specialists, embracing the physical changes that aligned her outer appearance with her inner truth. 6 months after her first spritz of blossoming dawn, Isla received a promotion at the firm, recognition not of her transition, but of her exceptional design work and strengthened client relationships. Many noted that her architectural concepts had taken on new dimensions, incorporating more organic, fluid elements while maintaining structural integrity, a reflection, perhaps, of her own integration of strengths. On the anniversary of the mistaken delivery, Isla celebrated with a personal ritual. She cleared her vanity and arranged her perfume collection chronologically, from the original cherry blossom and peony blend to her most recent acquisition. Each bottle represented a stage in her journey, a facet of herself discovered or revealed. She selected the original perfume and applied a single spray to her wrist. The familiar scent brought a rush of memories. That first night of discovery, the initial emergence of Isla, the gradual integration of her true self. Her phone chimed with a calendar reminder. Mom's birthday, order gift. Isla smiled at the irony. The perfume that was meant to be her mother's gift had instead been her own gift to herself, the gift of authenticity, of wholeness. She opened her laptop and navigated to her mother's favorite fragrance site. This year, she would get the order right. And perhaps, she thought, it was time to introduce her mother to Isla as well. The conversation wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. Another step in living truthfully. As Isla browsed fragrances, she reflected on the power of scent to evoke emotion, transform mood, and connect to memory. For her, perfume had been the key that unlocked her true identity. Not because it magically changed her from Devon to Isla, but because it gave her permission to acknowledge who she had always been. The cherry blossom and peony fragrance would always hold a special place in her collection, not as a transformation potion, but as a reminder of the beginning of her journey to authenticity. A journey that had started with a simple shipping mistake and led to the discovery of her true self. Isla selected her mother's favorite jasmine perfume and completed the order. Then, with deliberate movements, she opened her contact list and called her mother's number. It was time for another introduction, another step forward. As the phone rang, she touched her wrist to her nose, drawing strength from the familiar floral scent. "Hello?" her mother's voice answered. "Hi, Mom," Isla replied, her voice steady and true. "I have something important to tell you, and it begins with a perfume that was delivered to me by mistake last year." 1 year later, Isla stood before her bathroom mirror, applying her signature scent, still the cherry blossom and peony blend that had started everything. Her auburn hair, now reaching the middle of her back, was styled in loose waves. The face reflected back at her showed subtle changes from hormone therapy, softer contours, slightly fuller lips, but more striking was the confidence in her expression, the comfort in her own skin. She was preparing for an important evening, the firm's annual Design Awards Gala, where her latest project was nominated for innovation in sustainable urban housing. The emerald green evening gown laid out on her bed represented another milestone. This would be her first formal event presenting fully as herself to the entire architectural community in the city. As she fastened a delicate gold necklace around her throat, Isla reflected on the journey of the past 2 years. The conversation with her mother had been difficult initially, but had ultimately strengthened their relationship. Her father had needed more time, but had recently begun using her correct name consistently. Small victories, accumulated over months, had built a new foundation for her life. Her perfume collection now occupied an elegant display shelf in her bedroom, organized not by note or season, but by significant moments in her transition. Each bottle held memories, marked milestones. She had never returned the original mistaken delivery, instead reordering it multiple times as bottles emptied. "The perfume doesn't make me Isla," she had explained to her therapist months ago. "But it reminds me of the permission I gave myself to become who I always was." The doorbell rang, announcing her colleague and friend Renee, who would be accompanying her to the gala. Isla took one final look in the mirror, straightened her emerald gown, and smiled at her reflection. The journey wasn't over. Perhaps it never would be, but she walked each step as her authentic self, surrounded by the delicate scent of cherry blossoms and peonies. "Coming!" she called, gathering her clutch and wrap. Tonight belonged to Isla, architect, woman, herself in full bloom.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!